Damn, son.
Hello guys, it's me down here in the corner this time and not up here. Today I will be going over all the tier 4 classes that A-Team has brought to us for this lovely new update of having tier 4 classes, which is the next stage above all tier 3 classes for every class. And this new class update is pretty insane in my opinion. I think every class has a unique buff, unique spells, unique skills. And what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to go over each class and what I personally think of each class in this new update and how well they perform in each role, such as PvE and PvP. Alright, without that, let's get in our way. So remember guys, I'm just going over my opinions. I'm pretty sure many of you disagree with me, and that's fine. I honestly don't have like the brain of like a god right now. I'm just going over what I think about each of these classes, and in my opinion what I've experienced so far of how each of these classes perform. Alright, so starting off with archers, we have the first skill, which is imaginary shot. And imaginary shot is just the tier 4 version of like lethal strike and heavy, or is it hard strike, I think, high circle snipe. So this right here is the bread and butter of tier 4 archers now. This skill right here does immense amount of damage, so I personally think this skill right here is amazing, and this alone will make your DPS just shoot up a lot. The cost is 12, the cooldown is 6, so it's very spammable, and with this skill alone, this is the only skill that archers need, given that you have the cost for it. So I say that this skill right here alone is the best. This is what makes archers right here. Going clockwise, we have shot up A level 1, and this increases the attack of bows and guns. This is great because up until now archers have been picking passives for cloth armor and hats, which is pretty dumb because what kind of games where archers get buffs for being tanky and not for their bows? They're meant for doing DPS and not being a tank, because whoever heard of a tank archer? Alright, so next we have Poems of the Spirits, and this is basically a defense and magic defense buff, 20 seconds to all of your allies. This right here is, in my opinion, okay. To me personally, defense buffs haven't been really important to me in both PvP and PvE. PvP definitely, you're just gonna melt even with 20% buffs. PvE, it may help. Currently I think the quests right now are pretty difficult, so this right here is pretty nice to have, I guess. But the thing that I don't like about it is that it's 25 cost. 40 second cooldown is okay, but the 25 cost right here is like pretty disgusting in my opinion, because that's basically 1/4 of a full cost bar, and that's, in my opinion, is not worth it. Next we have shot up A level 2, again a great passive for archers. This makes them do more damage with both bows and guns and attack. Next one is cost up, and I guess this is okay. This is great in my opinion for guild battles, because archers start off with 5 cost, and so with having this passive you start at 10 cost, which makes it a little easier if you're not doing an ether exchange rush. So you'll be starting at 10, and then you can just use your imaginary shot after like 1 or 2 seconds as battle starts. Next we have Berg Snipe. I've heard many things about this skill. From what I've heard from my guildmates, this skill isn't that great, to be honest. It's basically like a slow charge shot, and I don't think that's really worth it. I've heard many people say it's pretty nice to have because you lower the target's defense, the magic defense, but I guess that would be okay in sense of PvE, but I'd rather just have buffs, to be honest, and that's what gets you going PvE, because having buffs, if you're going through waves of multiple enemies, it's better to get the buffs so you're basically doing more damage for multiple enemies rather than reducing one target's defense, and then next room after you clear that one, the enemy's back at full defense. So it's better to have offensive buffs than rather just like debuffs, in my opinion, for archers. so I personally don't like Burk Snipe. This is the shared passive, 7% magic defense. Always nice to have because it makes you tanky. It's shared with any class you use, so try to grab it if you can, and I highly recommend getting this as soon as possible. Next we have Wind of Courage. This right here is terrific if you're running a maybe this seems helpful like in a haste team, like a full haste team, but then again people use 2 Valkyries and 3 haste monsters, and this seems pretty nice. I've seen many guilds use this personally, and I think this is a great skill to have if you can't get that extra 2-3 stacks for attacking for crystals. Then you can just get this skill right here, and I think this skill is really nice to have, way better than the defense up in my opinion. This right here is anti-lancer 4. Screw you archers, I play lancers. I don't like this skill at all. But this skill right here makes your ability power 20 times stronger, which is excellent. This basically makes everything about, I say, 10-15% more damage for lancers. So this right here is nice to have if you're going against lancers and you want to burst them instantly. Grab this skill. Next we have Shot Up B level 2, and this is the magic attack version of the attack version of bows and guns for archers. Pretty nice to have. Jinx, this right here, I don't think it's not great. Basically what it does is it just shoots 1 arrow at 100 ability power, and it has a 50% chance of cursing a target for 30 seconds. And what cursing does is basically that target cannot receive any sort of healing buffs or healing over time for 30 seconds. And I guess that's okay in PvE. I'm not sure, because there's not many monsters that really heal aside from like those light Valkyries, I guess. But PvP, no one really heals in PvP, so I don't think this is too great on them. So in my opinion, Jinx isn't that great, and you're better off getting Imaginary Shot. And lastly, we have Shot Up B level 1, which is basically a 2% attack for magic attack for bows and guns. So in my opinion, so far from archers, I think they received numerous of great buffs in this update, and so I'm going to give, in terms of PvE, I'm gonna give them a 9 out of 10. And the reason why I'm doing this is because, to me, I think that the archers, they have a lot of great abilities given to them in tier 4. A lot of attack and magic defense, magic attack up, and imaginary shot is great. But what isn't great about this tree is that they give 2 skills that are completely useless in my opinion. Burk Snipe can be used in a way for like harder bosses, I guess, like a raid boss. I guess Burk Snipe would be okay, but right now in the meta, the way it is right now, it's just questing and guild versus guild, and this isn't that great. Imaginary Shot is always good though, but that's just one skill from this tree that's really good. Wind of Courage is really nice, and aside from that, I don't think there's many of the other skills that are pretty beneficial. So in my opinion, archers have gotten a great buff in this patch for PvE, and as for PvP, I'd say they get a 10 out of 10 because archers right now are ridiculous. And the reason why I say that is because right now the newest monster is Alice, so you can basically stack Alices, stack bows, and the skill passives they got are attack bonuses, and imaginary shot is just a stupid amount of damage right now. So I think archers are like one of the top 2 strongest classes right now in guild versus guild, so I think they're really up there. Alright, so that's it for archers. What do we have for, let's see, what's next? Lancers. Alright, for Lancers, let's see. For Lancers, we got Break Thrust. And Break Thrust is just an ability that ignores damage reflect and damage down. For me personally, I don't use this skill because I don't think it's that great. For 12 cost and 140 ability power, it's not that great. You're better off getting like a Savage Sting or a Sting to compensate, and most people don't have damage reflect. Well, not damage down and damage reflect. Unless you get lucky in guild versus guild, but it doesn't really matter because if a Lancer is doing damage to a crystal, the crystal doesn't have damage down or damage reflect abilities, so that's pretty negligible to have. So I don't think Break Thrust is that great, honestly. Armor up level 1, so it's defense up for armor gear, which is always nice to have because Lancers tend to be really squishy, and this right here just makes them a little bit tanky. Demoralize is just a reduced defense for all enemies for 20 seconds. 20% chance of paralysis. Again, these debuff skills are not in meta right now, so I don't highly recommend getting this skill. It doesn't tend to be useful, and you're betting off getting like offensive stack buffs. Next, we have Pull Up level 4, and this is basically increased attack of lances and scythe gear by 8%. Always nice to have because Lancers, they want to get as much attack as possible, and having this passive will increase all of their gear by 8%, which is always nice to have. Next, we have Anti-Mage level 4. Terrific because mages already with this one Night Bliss should instantly kill a mage depending on how much gear they have, but on average I personally don't have any tough times killing mages, and this right here just steals the deals on how easy Lancers can kill mages with. Savage double sting right here, the best ability in this tree in my opinion. Basically what it does is it has the ability power of 100 and it hits the enemy twice, and so combo with Savage Sting is 110 ability power. So basically you're getting 2 hits, and if you proc like a Testament or a Heart, this is basically giving 2 damage output, and this increases damage on like crystals, on monsters by a significant amount. The cooldown isn't that bad, but the cost is immense, but in my opinion it's worth it because look, you're spending 18 cost for 2 hits and there's a chance of proccing it twice. And so a regular sting or pierce is like 10 cost and it's like 130 AP I think. And so you're basically paying like, you're saving like 2 costs by just getting this skill alone, or at least like 1 or 2 costs, which is pretty nice in my opinion. And it saves you 1 less skill slot if you want to do double sting, which in my opinion is great because you want as many skill slots as possible to have as many offensive skills as you can for outright bursting the enemy down. Next we have the shared trait of attack boost level 4. Again, 7% attack, always nice to have. Nothing wrong with this, so grab this if you're a Lancer as soon as possible. Dragon Crush, this is basically an AoE Night Blitz, slightly weaker, and the animation is a lot slower. It's about like a noticeable 2 seconds slower than Night Blitz. And so in my opinion, I don't think this skill is great in terms of PvP. Yeah, it's not that great in PvP right now in the meta the way it is right now. PvE, it's okay. For me personally, I use this skill to like do pasta farming or egg farming just because it clears out the enemy wave in a second. So in my opinion, this skill is like okay if you want to do like reforged materials, but aside from that, I don't think it's too great. You're better off using Night Blitz in my opinion. Next we have critical damage up. 5% may not seem a lot, but if you're end game and you're hitting like 100k, 5% can go a long way. And if you crit that 5%, let's say you hit 100k, and that's a 5% crit, that's 5,000 more damage on top of that. And on average, most Lancers hit like 30ks with Sting, so that's an immense power spike. That's about 17% increase right there, just having a critical damage up by 5%. So I'm personally working on this right now. I should get it tonight. So after that, I'm going to be like ridiculously strong if you have a Sheena or that Fire Pig buff. Next we have Helmet level 2. In my opinion, this right here is great because helmet defense is always nice to have. Lancers are really squishy. Unfortunately, we have no sort of magic defense in this trait, in this tier 4. So if you want to stack up on defense, just stack it up because even though you're not resistant to magic defense, you're still resistant to somewhat of archers because they do attack as well. So having a little bit of defense against archers is really always nice to have. Next we have Berserker Spirit, And this is basically a 12 cost 40-second cooldown skill for increasing your critical hit rate by 30% for 60 seconds. And in my opinion, this is okay, I guess. If you're like a solo quester, then this is, I guess, is nice to have. But then again, 30% critical rate is pretty low. You're better off using like a Sheena or like a Fire Pig, which can bring you up to like 40%. And I don't think this is in my opinion, I don't think this is great on using as a slot skill item. So, in my opinion, and it's not for your whole team. If it was for your whole team, I think this is a ridiculously good skill to have. But since it's by yourself, I don't think I don't recommend it getting this. So yeah. And lastly, we have Helmet Up level 1. Again, more defense, always nice to have. And so my rating for Lancers, no bias because I am a Lancer personally. I give PvE for Lancers I give them a 7 out of 10. And the reason why I give them a 7 out of 10 is because I don't think in terms of like maybe just like double sting, this is like their best PvE skill. This right here isn't that great. Break Thrust and Dragon Crush isn't that great in terms of like single target boss damage. And most of these other skills are just offensive buffs and defensive buffs. So PvE, you're not looking to tank as much. If you have a good Cleric, they will just heal you back up, so defense doesn't really matter. You just want to get damage out, and this tier doesn't really give our Lancers much attack. It just basically works with getting around like defenses and basically upping up their defense so they don't die as fast, which is the opposite of what Lancers want to do. They just want to get damage out as soon as possible. So in my opinion, I give them a 7 out of 10 because I don't think their PvE skill set is that great. In terms of PvP, I give them a I'm gonna give them a I'm gonna give them an 8 out of 10. And the reason why I say that is because even though they got some buffs, again, like Break Thrust isn't that great, and Dragon Crush isn't super great right now, and it's not in meta. But the defense buff, these defensive passives are good. The double sting is always nice to have, and the attack from Scythes and Lances, as well as the unique passive, makes them stronger. So in my opinion, they didn't get dropped off completely from this tier patch, but they could have been a lot worse in my opinion. But double sting does make up for most of the flaws that Lancers have, because this right here is an amazing skill in my opinion. Alright, so let's see, we have soldiers next. Let's see right here. And for soldiers, give me a second right here. For soldiers, we have Divine Smash, and this is basically like the heavy smash, which just pulls targets. The upgraded version of it, 7-second cooldown, 12 cost. Pretty nice ability to have, except this time it reduces the enemy's attack, I think. Oh no, it uses attack and defensive stats, which is amazing in my opinion, because paladins are already second defense, so this takes into account your physical attack and your defensive stats. So if you have high defense with mediocre attack, this just makes Divine Smash work amazingly well. And there's a 30% chance you can blind the target, and the target monster will target you more often. Great PvE skill. Somewhat decent PvP skill in my opinion. It depends on how much defense the paladin has. So this skill right here is an improved, way upgraded version of Heavy Smash. So I think this is great. Slash Up level 1, this is great because soldiers are already doing low damage, and giving them that low 2% attack in swords and with swords and axes is always great. Sacred Hand basically is like a cleric skill, which is heals your heals 3 people if you put them in the correct order, and it removes all debuffs from target. So that's pretty nice to have. I assume that it's not that much because most soldiers don't have a lot of magic attacks, so I'm assuming it scales off magic attacks. So I don't think it's that great in terms of heal, but removing the buffs is always nice to have. But I don't think it's worth taking because if you have like a cleric already who has like Master Fresh or greater healing, then you don't really need the skill. So I don't think the skill is that great, but if you're the only soldier without any clerics around, then you can just grab this skill. It's pretty nice to have. Next we have attack up, so 3% attack, always nice to have. Slash up level 3, increases attack of swords and axes by 5%. Again, more attack is nice. Soldiers lack it, so the more the merrier. Vanquish, this right here is damages one enemy with physical attack, reduces attack, target's attack and magic attack by 10% for 30 seconds. Again, these kind of debuff skills aren't in meta right now because even if you reduce a target's magic attack or attack by 10%, let's say they have 60 attack right now or 60,000 magic attack, it will reduce it by 10%, they still have 54,000 left over. And they can still kill anyone, whoever they want. So I don't think it's that great. If it was just like 20-30%, then maybe. But in my opinion, 10% is too low right now. But if you do a combo after a smash or a divine smash, then it changes to 20%, but it's only for attack. So I don't think it's worth it because soldiers, they just want to sit there and tank, and right now the meta isn't suited for this Vanquish, but it is suited for Divine Smash, which I think is pretty good at PvP. The shared trait, 7% defense, I love it. Defense is always nice to have, so grab it. Dual Sword, damages one enemy with physical attack that uses attack and defensive stats 2 times. So this is like a double sting for soldiers, 18 cost, 10-second cooldown, and this right here seems like a pretty nice DPS skill, but if you're going a pure tank, you might as well use Divine Smash because it's a less cost, and it's basically the same thing as Dual Sword, except I think it doesn't reduce the stats, but it has the same effect as making the monster target you more often. So if you're doing PvE, I would just get Divine Smash. I wouldn't recommend getting Dual Sword. Dual Sword is meant for like a DPS sort of skill for soldiers. Next we have Anti-Archer level 4, more damage to archers. I personally have never seen soldiers kill archers because both of them archers just kill soldiers straight up, the ones I've seen right now. So I guess if you want to go like a DPS soldier, get it. I haven't seen any DPS soldiers recently, so I don't have like the 100% info on this. So if you want, get it. It's like 1200 cost, I think, or no, 2000 cost. So if you want it, grab it. Armor up level 4, defense of armor and armor gear by 12%. This right here is a must-have. 12% is a lot. So if soldiers have like 40,000 defense right now, 12% just gives them additional 5,000, which is insane. That's like a crap ton of stats right there. Charisma fills allies' Unison gauge up by 5. Cast a 20-second buff on all allies that has a 10% chance of nullifying damage taken. This is basically like a cheer, but it has a longer cooldown and it costs 5. But there's a 10% chance to nullify damage taken, which is, I guess, decent. This does seem well for like PvE, in my opinion. I think this might be a great skill to have in PvE, because like bosses, later on for raids, they have a high chance of like killing people immediately, so that 10% chance might actually save people. But in terms of PvP, I don't think it's that great, in my opinion. And lastly, we have Slash at level 2. More damage for swords and axes, always great to have. So, my personal rating of soldiers in this update, for PvE, I'd say they are they're pretty good actually, so I'm gonna give them an 8 out of 10. And the reason why I say that is that they're given more utility this time around, because they can be more flexible with their skills, because now they have Sacred Hand, which is basically like a secondary cleric skill. They have Charisma, which is nice to have for like harder content later on. Dual Sword, if you want to go DPS, you can get this, but I wouldn't recommend getting it. Divine Smash, great PvE skill. And let's see, this right here is not that great. And aside from that, you get more tank stats, slightly more attack. So I say soldiers this time around got an amazing update. a lot better than their past skill trees, which basically makes them useless. Hopefully we'll see more soldiers this time around because I think this update right here made them a lot better. In terms of PvP, unfortunately they're not in meta right now because the meta right now is just do as much damage as possible. So unfortunately I can't give them a high score. However, they do have their benefits because if you go like a DPS soldier, then you're sitting there tanking until a mage comes out and kills you with one meteor. So in my opinion, I think right now for PvP, they're not that great, so I'm going to give them a 6 out of 10. So until they like make some changes about them, because until guild battle works around like soldiers better, because in PvP, soldiers get completely ignored. People just go for the DPS users, and then soldiers just sit there doing nothing. So I can't give them a high score, but in terms of PvE, they've got amazing updates, so that works out for them because their PvP is still pretty bad, but their PvE gotten better. Next, we have mages. The one class I hate the most because they do so much damage. It's absurd. Okay, first we have Skewered, basically I think the photons skill for mages. Yeah, the photon skill for mages, Skewered. 90 ability power, hits the enemy twice. I've seen mages use this a couple times. I don't think it's super great in my opinion because the cost is pretty insane, but I'm not a mage personally. But I think some of my guildmates take this skill, so I think it's a pretty nice skill to have. So yeah, I recommend getting that skill. Oh, it looks like mages are getting tankier this time around because they have dress up level 1, which increases their magic defense of clothing gear by 3%. And so mages are already wearing clothing gear, or should have, so this is always nice to have. Cruel Illusion reduces magic defense of all allies, or no, all allies. Why would I reduce the magic defense of my own teammates? Reduce magic defense of all enemies by 20% for 60 seconds. Again, magic defense reduction are not in meta right now, so I don't recommend getting this, especially since it's 20 cost and it's a pretty long cooldown. Dressed up level 2, more magic defense for clothing gear, always nice to have. And no, not anti just yet. We have Wrought Up level 4, magic attack of staff and charms by 8%. Mages, all mages should get these. Highly recommended. Meteor Rain, the AoE meteor this time around hits 3 people. From my personal experience, I think it's weaker compared to Meteor. Oh, actually, yeah, it's somewhat weaker. Well, the ability power is higher by 10, but the thing that's different is that Meteor Rain has a chance of hitting 2 to 5 times, where Meteor has a chance of hitting 3 to 6 times. And so one Meteor alone just negates that plus 10 ability power on Meteor Rain. So unless in PvP, unless you have multiple mages using the skill, then you're not going to kill anyone because you probably don't have the damage to just immediately kill unless you have like 70,000 magic attack for some unknown reason. Then you just wipe out the whole team. Then go ahead and get the skill because I don't have seen mages do that yet. Magic attack boost level 4. Yes, that's all I have to say. Yes. Absorption, ability power 90, damages one enemy and its adjacent enemies with magic attack. Added effect, 10% of damage inflicted is used to heal your HP. I don't think this is a great skill because if you have a cleric, then you don't need any heals at all. Most monsters have healing abilities such as Cuchulian, Valkyries. They all have some sort of heal. And aside from that, you're better off using like Photon Crush because it's a low cost and it should be more damage. 130, low cost and more damage. So you're better off getting like a Photon Crush. Critical rate up. So this right here, 3% critical rate up. If you have nothing better to do, I'd say get this because 3% critical chance rate is not really high. And if you're in guild battles, you're probably going to use like Sheena or Fire Pig. And this 3% right here is not going to be noticeable. But I mean, if you're like some RNG god and you just proc this every single time, then go ahead and get it. But if you're like any scrub like me and have no RNG, then I wouldn't recommend getting this until you have finished every single other skill on the mage tree and you just want to have this just to have it. So next we have anti-soldier level 4. There aren't many soldiers around, so this skill isn't so great, but it's nice to have in case there is a soldier around, because that 20 ability power just destroys soldiers because they're busy stacking up defense, and mages just basically wipes them with just their pure magic attack. Next we have the Spirit, and this right here decreases critical hit of all enemies by 20%. Again, if it's non-buffed enemies, then you're basically wasting your time gaining the skill, because negative 20%. Okay, I have 2% critical chance rate without any buffs, and you use that on me. I can't have negative 18 critical chance rate. I'm going to be at 0, and you're wasting a skill gain. You're wasting a slot just using that. So I recommend not getting the skill at all, unless like everyone gets like an increase in critical chance rate. Then this skill is not really nice to have. And lastly, we have Hat up level 1. More magic defense, always nice to have. And so for my ratings on mages, this time around for PvE, they've gotten some pretty nice skills. So I'm gonna give them this time around a 8 out of 10. And I say 8 out of 10, and why not like 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10? It's because Skewered right here is nice to have. Not Absorption. Meteor Rain is okay, but I'm better off using Meteor. But these other skills right here, like the Cruel Illusion, just debuffs, HP regen, and again debuffs are not nice, are just not good to have in my opinion. Everything else just makes them tankier and do a little bit more damage, but in terms of active skills, then it's not that great. But you have Photon Crush and all these other things to work with, so Skewered, nice to have, and Meteor Rain, somewhat nice to have in my opinion. And for PvP, I'm speaking in the sense of like standard teams and not mage stacking teams, because if it was a mage stacking team, then I think mages are absolutely destructive to have. But in terms of just like 1 or 2 mages on the field, then I'm gonna say they're like a 8 out of 10 for PvP. And the reason why I say this is because I'm only speaking for terms of tier 4 skills and not for the whole thing. Meteor Rain, you're not gonna kill anyone with this unless you get like, unless they have like no magic defense and you're like a magic attack god, then you're probably not gonna kill anyone with this. You're better off killing someone with just regular Meteor, because this right here does way more damage compared to Meteor Rain. Skewered, pretty nice to have, hits twice, and if you can proc it, then you do more damage. But everything else is just like, alright, I'm just gonna debuff you, that's about it. But don't get me wrong, mages are still really strong in PvP. One of the strongest classes in my opinion. And lastly, we have the Oracle. And so, let's see what we have here. We have Area Recovery, Ability Power 70, heals 3, 1 ally, yeah. So it heals 3 people and removes the effect status of all, to remove status ailments from all allies that are hit by it. So it's basically like Sacred Hand for soldiers, except with status ailment and not like status reduction. So pretty nice skill. Magic attack for boost for books and relics, always nice to have, makes you heal more, so grab that skill whenever you can. Purification removes debuffs from all allies, including special debuffs. I think special debuffs like Curse or something, so I haven't seen any Curse this time around, but I assume this skill is pretty nice to have. I think it's like the upgraded Master Fresh, I think, so yeah. I think that skill is like a way better version of Master Fresh, so grab that when you get the chance. Relic up level 2, magic attack up for books and relic gear by 3%. Again, more magic attack means more heals, always nice to have. Relic up level 3, this entire tree is filled with it. More magic attack, so right now you have 10% magic attack from just these passives alone, so you're healing for a crap ton now. If you have a lot of based magic attack alone, you're getting a 10% increase right here. Wow. Plague of Light, 130 ability power, damage to all enemies with magic attack. Again, most clerics aren't DPS in guild battles, they're just basically there for healing, but if you're like a questing cleric, then I guess the skill is nice to have, but 25 cost, 40-second cooldown, I don't think it's worth it at all. Unique passive, debuff resistance 7%. I don't personally like the Cleric shared trait because debuffs don't really affect me unless it's like Colosseum. So I don't think this is that great. But I mean, if you're a Bishop and you or Oracle and you just want to get this to have it, then go ahead. It's 4,000 proficiency. Use it however you want. Dignity heals HP of all allies by 60. I think this right here is pretty good in my opinion. All allies by ability power of 60, 20 cost, and 30-second cooldown. Pretty nice in my opinion. Pretty nice. Magic up, 3% magic attack. Always nice to have. Magic defense up for hat gear, 4%. Still pretty nice to have. Clerics are just meant to be tanky, so you want to grab that as soon as possible. Light of Relief, reduce damage taken by one ally by 30%, basically the upgraded barrier. Added effect, heals target for 5% of their maximum HP every 5 seconds for 40 seconds. So I think this skill right here will be amazing for like Colosseum. This is a must-have for Colosseum. In terms of guild battles, I think it's like okay, because the HP pool of most characters right now is still pretty low. But in terms of Colosseum, I think this is amazing skill to have. And PvE wise, once you have raids, if you put this on a soldier that's always taking aggro, and as long as the raid monster or the boss isn't doing like AoE and it's doing single target hits, you put this on the soldier and they'll basically live on forever. They'll never die. I think this is a pretty nice skill to have. Hat up, magic defense up for hat gear by 3%. Again, more defense, always nice to have. So my rating for PvE Cleric, I think this time around they got an amazing upgrade. So I'm gonna give them a 10 out of 10 to be honest, because I'm speaking in terms of like future content and not current content right now. In terms of current content, you don't really need this much because it's pretty much overkill. But in terms of future content, supposed to have like harder bosses and stuff. If you have someone like that knows of doing a static that knows what like how to tank and like off tank, then clerics are monsters because they have AoE heals, whole team heals, and a kind of like a upgraded barrier, which is really nice to have. PvP wise, most of these heals have long cooldowns, so for clerics they want to get heals off as much as possible. If you're doing like frontline healing for guild battles, when you're at Crystal Stage you want to heal is fine, but if you're frontline battling it's not that great. So I'm gonna say for clerics they get a 8 out of 10 in my opinion this time around. I give them an 8 out of 10 because they're still useful in terms of they can heal, but it's just that most of the skills now are long cooldowns and people will instantly burst you down. I mean, clerics usually use like their tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 skills already, so you don't really need these skills. These are for much later on in like PvE content, but in terms of PvP content, their heals are like in my opinion. So that's it for this video, guys. I've given my personal thoughts about every single class and how I think they are in the current patch right now. This is just my opinions alone. Any of you guys can disagree with me, I don't really care. I'm just giving you my thoughts on how I think these classes are. And not to get anyone wrong, not saying like, oh, everyone play Archer because they're pretty OP. Every class is ridiculously strong right now, do not get me wrong. Tier 4 is an amazing upgrade to the game. So every class is strong, none of them are weak. Don't take any of this personal because it's just my opinion. So yeah, that's the end of this video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed this, me talking for like 40 minutes about nonsense and giving my personal opinion. So hope you guys enjoy it. If you like this video, please give me a like. If you want to see more videos from me, give me a subscription. If you have any questions or any comments about the video, please give me a comment below. So that's it for this video, guys. I'll see y'all next time.